The most intense. The most horrifying. It's in your blood. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. The nightmare continues, only from Capcom.
Okay, so it's been a real hot minute since I made one of these videos, and to be honest, it's been some time since I made some actual scripted content. So, sorry about that. I've just been kind of busy. I think I should explain myself a bit as to why it took so long to make a part 3 to the Clone series, and there's two reasons for that. The first being the most obvious. Playing the same type of game gets pretty fucking dreadful after a while, especially when the games aren't that great or just don't fit the whole clones, like, business genre, whatever. The second reason kind of echoes the first here. I haven't not been playing RE clones in the near 2 years since the last video, but a lot of them have just been kind of bad. See, classic survival horror games aren't fun because of their base gameplay. They're fun because of other things, like good atmosphere, dumb as fuck hot boys, good puzzles, and some arcadey challenges that reward mastery over the wank-ass control scheme. Actually, 10 controls enrich the gameplay experience. This is not a true Resident Evil fan. Hands off Venezuela. So when you get games that just insert tank controls and a fixed camera perspective with no eye on how framing not only affects the atmosphere of a scene, but the gameplay itself, you end up with some of the most gaming experiences out there. But since I spent money on these games, I'd guess I better give them the briefest of brief overviews before I go into tonight's main course. So, first up to bat is Cabus 22, an odd Turkish take on the RE formula. If you look up Resident Evil clones, Cabus 22 is one of the first things to pop up, aside from my videos. It's interesting and all, but not interesting enough to keep my attention for too long. Might give it another chance some other day, but for the time being, it's a pass. Next up is Outbreak: The New Nightmare, which is a sequel to a 2D game just called Outbreak, and it's trying to emulate Resident Evil Outbreak. Haha. A commendable effort in and of itself, especially considering that it was worked on by one guy. Too bad the game is kinda not great. Like, I mean, I hate shitting on the guy's work, but boy howdy does it need some work. I got on the Xbox One, which funnily enough doesn't include the online play, so why even bother touching it at this point? RE Outbreak itself is unfun without co-op, so why settle for a dollar store Outbreak that has a marginally better FPS than Bloodborne? Outbreak: The Nightmare Chronicles is the episodic sequel to the sequel of the original game. This time though, it's actually single player and balanced as such. The first episode, from what I played at least, was going for an RE remake kind of deal, and it's better for it, honestly. It's not great, but it's a tad bit better than his previous adventure. I haven't gone too far enough into it because I once again lost interest, but it wasn't a dreadful experience. I do wish Dead Drop Studios the best of luck in their future endeavors, as they seem to be getting a bit better with each game. So, like, as of writing the script, Dead Drop Studios just released yet another Outbreak game. This time going for a RE4 style of gameplay. Now, I haven't played it yet, but I may do someday, as I think that kind of style of gameplay is easier to pull off, you know? Now, honestly, I've never seen one man so committed to making his own little small passion project game series. And honestly, despite the fact that, let's be honest, not many people are going to be playing it, it really warms me like a SoCal winter, knowing that there's still some, like, passionate, true RE fans out there willing to make games they love. Which conveniently brings me to the real topic of this video. Many a moons ago, I was watching a bit of a Residence of Evil stream where he was showing off this strange RE1 clone that was actually kind of funny. I made a mental note to search for this game and possibly do a video on it in the future. However, I have the memory of a fucking goldfish, so I forgot to do it for the better half of a year, until I came across its sequel on Steam by accident. Snatching them both up, I set out to play the subjects of tonight's video: Prototype Mansion, use no cover, and Garden Variety Body Horror, rare import. Muhahaha. Transition. Prototype Mansion UNC is a game by Jupiter Lighthouse Games, which is comprised of a two-man dev team featuring Dylan Engelman and Andrew Hildebrand. Yeah, okay, I nailed those. The game is also the first installment of the ongoing Devil's Bargain Bin series, which is looking to expand its horizons with each new gaming venture, at least according to their website. Actually, I would recommend going to Jupiter Lighthouse's website, as it's sprinkled with jokes and the sort of things that just kind of add a bit more character to the indie duo. But with all that outside information aside, how is Jupiter Lighthouse's first venture into the world of survival horror? Pretty fucking good, actually. Sure. The game is not without its problems, and I'll get to that in a second, but overall, this game is filled with more love and personality than Countdown Vampires ever had, even despite its pretty short runtime, around an hour for the main campaign, with some replay value added by the Resident Evil Mercenaries-like overtime mode. Okay, so, the story is basically a parody of Resident Evil 1's plot, but ironically funny this time. And I do mean pretty funny. The game is filled to the brim with a lot of jokes poking fun at both Resident Evil and classic survival horror games in general. One of my personal favorite jokes in this game is a jab at the old endgame trope of scramble towards the exit before the timer runs out, that's found in, every mainline RE game except for, RE7.
Hang on, gotta check my step counter. See about my step goals for the day. Fuck! It's about to roll over, but I'm still shy. Let's go, kid. Time to hustle.
The visual style of this game is also reminiscent of those 5th generation horror games, albeit a bit more cartoonish. Although, to be fair, I don't think anything is quite as cartoonishly hilarious as Chris's Saturn model. If you couldn't tell by the footage, the game also employs fixed camera angles and tank controls, which makes this more of a true survival horror game than 90% of the first 4 Silent Hill games, Enemy Zero, Illbleed, and Fatal Frame games post Fatal Frame 3, at least according to people who had a cattle bolt fire through their skulls. Not gonna lie either, the art direction in this game looks very nice. Sure, the PS1 aesthetic is in right now, with games like OK Normal, Paratopic, and Dead End Road adopting the style, but there's something about the way the colors just pop out. It's really pleasing. The blood effects are especially over the top, as it literally goes everywhere in these droplets of bright red splotches all over the floor. So, what I'm getting at here is that the game is just really nice looking and uses the PS1 style to its advantage. The gameplay, on the other hand, is pretty run-of-the-mill. I'd argue that it plays more like Deep Fear than Resident Evil, as you can move and shoot but can't aim up or down, as the game relies on mostly an auto-aim system to do that for you. Just typical 90s survival horror stuff. Speaking of typical horror stuff, the enemy variety is mainly comprised of zombies and a few other beasts, but mainly just zombies. This would be more of a problem if the game wasn't so short, but honestly, it really isn't that big of a deal. There are, however, glitches and design flaws in the game that do detract from the overall experience. The biggest point of contention being the checkpoint save system. I'm pretty sure that the game is supposed to save every time you enter a room or die. However, there were times when I'd die and be sent way the fuck back, and other times where I'd be brought back in roughly the same area. It kind of feels random, and honestly, I would have preferred a more stable, hard save system like in the OG Resident Evil games. Enemy collision areas are a bit too big as well, especially considering that most of the game takes place in like small, cramped hallways, which often leads to a countdown vampire-esque moment of getting beat down by some goon because they trapped me in a corner I couldn't get out of. This isn't a big deal in the main campaign, but in overtime mode, this happened more than I'd care to admit. There were also some miscellaneous glitches I found along the way, like this certain enemy not being able to hit me when I went back into the elevator shaft, and this other one where I was being thrown into the next room, which kind of proves that the door loading animations are false in this game. Kind of like Concluse and Cry of Fear. Sure, this stuff is warned about in the intro of the game, but that doesn't really excuse them for being there. That being said, though, none of this greatly affected the overall experience. They just kind of chipped away at it. This game is a celebration of the classics, and it loves them as much as it pokes fun at them. It's silly, goofy, and overall just a good time, even if it feels more like an introduction for the team's next game, Garden Variety Body Horror, rare import. Okay, so Prototype Mansion was a very interesting proof of concept game that I believe with a bit more tweaking and extended game length could have been more than just a charmingly fun game, but something really special. And that's where Garden Variety Body Horror really shines through. It not only captures the heart of the previous game, but expands and tweaks upon the good things from it, all the while managing to carve its own unique identity, really taking it a step above from just being another run-of-the-mill Resident Evil love letter. While the game is certainly not perfect and does still suffer from some technical difficulties here and there, just about everything in Garden Variety is better and more fine-tuned than its predecessor. From a more varied setting to a refined saving system, this game delivers in spades. But before I get really off the rails, let me try and make this video just a bit more concise. So, this game's plot takes place roughly around the same time as Prototype Mansion's, but this time you play as this game's resident boulder molester, Hank. Aside from a few key points and a couple of meta references here and there, the story isn't really all that connected to the original, but I'd still recommend playing Prototype Mansion prior to this one, mainly so you get the full impact of the last third of the game, which is just underneath D2 as the most gonzo shit I've ever bore witness to on this channel, which is pretty impressive considering how D2 required you to shoot your undead mother's robo-vagina after informing you that she stuck some prehistoric angel semen into her to give birth to you. Spoilers, by the way, not that that makes any fucking sense though. Luckily, the humor is also back, and it's just as snarky as ever. Graphically speaking, though, the game is similar to its predecessor, boasting the same PS1 aesthetic as the original. However, this time, it takes place mostly outside for the majority of its runtime, in garden-like areas. Funny laugh. This means that there are a bunch of bright, colorful pixels and polygons everywhere, and boy howdy does it just make me wanna sex. Oh, and the crazy blood effects are back too, which is nice. However, a lot more has changed since the last game. As you can see by the footage, the game has adopted a camera style similar to Silent Hill, where it basically tracks you instead of being a fixed camera, you know? So basically, this game has been demoted from a true survival horror status to boo-boo piss baby trash. Good job, Jupiter Lighthouse. The game also has a stronger emphasis on melee combat than Prototype Mansion 2, thus boosting the game's weapon diversity by a decent margin. Speaking about diversity, the enemies have been amped up in both the variety and design departments. There are a lot more enemies in this game, ranging from the standard zomboid to the strange baby things and even the skinless fuck that can kill you in one hit. Luckily though, you can kill it just as easily. Also, all the enemies employ this plant look to them as well, making even the lowliest of undead pretty. Also, this is the second video in a row that deals with plant monsters, oddly enough. On the topic of monsters, you're going to be fighting them a lot, which will inevitably lead to you losing some health. Luckily, you can scarf down some cans of tuna to gain back your lost vitality, but not without a cost. See, this game implements both hard saving and auto saving, and the way you hard save is by feeding cats scattered around the map cans of tuna, which leads to the player thinking, should I stay at low health and save my game, or heal and push forward but at the risk of losing a lot more progress? It's a pretty cool idea, but unless you're playing on one of the harder difficulties, the game autosaves every time you enter a room, which means it's sometimes better to just kill yourself and regain the lost health after respawning without wasting food, which I found to be pretty limited, honestly. But then again, I'm just bad at finding shit. Just for reference though, I was playing on normal difficulty for this review, so for all of you purists out there, you might want to start on classic mode. Aside from this though, I still do have a few problems with the game. I found the hit detection to be kind of iffy, and I never quite nailed what the range was to hit something with a melee weapon. It's just kind of odd. I also found the gardener boss to have way too much health, and it was kind of a chore to take him down, even when his AI glitches. The inventory system is also a bit odd here too. The game introduces a limited inventory system similar to RE, but I swear it's based more on item weight than inventory space, like in the original Alone in the Dark, as there'd be times when I'd have inventory space to spare, but the character just wasn't picking up items. But that just could have been a glitch or me being a stupid dumb. I don't know. Fucking transition. The biggest problem I had with the game, though, was when I wasn't able to pick up a certain key item, so I had to put it down, and it just phased from existence, which wasn't cool. That being said, though, all of these problems don't amount to too much, and don't really dampen the otherwise great experience. The game is about 3 times as long as Prototype Mansion, and offers a lot of replay value in the form of New Game Plus mode and a sort of ranking system like in the classic RE games, so you can challenge yourself to beat the game faster with each run-through. So yeah, overall I'd definitely recommend playing both of these games, especially Garden Variety Body Horror. I'd love to go further in depth with this game at a certain point in time, but this show is about recommending games more than a full-on review of it. So experience it on your own time. It's really worth it. I'll be leaving a link to both of the game's Steam/itch.io pages in the description below if any of you are interested in picking it up. Anyways, y'all, that's going to be it from me for tonight. I plan on trying to be a bit more consistent with my scripted content, but I won't make any promises. It's been a pretty busy 5 months, to say the least, but I will be streaming every now and then, so stop by and say hi. As for when I'll do another Resident Evil Clones video, I honestly don't know. I think I'm always going to keep this series on the back burner until I either run out of ideas for more original standalone videos, or if I find a few interesting RE clones that are worth talking about. So look forward to the next part of the Resident Evil Clone series a year from now. So long, folks.